after I lost the weight, nobody knew who I was. They thought that she married a new man. It was actually fun when they didn't realize who I was. I didn't think I'd changed that much, but I guess they didn't recognize me. It's a tremendous difference. You feel good about yourself. I find myself looking in the mirror, whereas for years, literally years, I would brush my teeth and I stayed away from pictures. Now, anybody throws a picture up, I'm in it. I'll probably throw a muscle up or something like that. I don't understand this fake meat. This will kill every diabetic on earth. It is loaded with carbs. In one of those fake patties, it's got like 50 carbs.
Okay, good morning. Welcome, Richard. It's good to have you here. So you're going to share apparently a success story with us. Where you said you're from Las Vegas, is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up between here and California.
Okay.
Las Vegas, Nevada, and California.
Tell us a little about your background. What do you do? What kind of stuff have you done in your life so far?
Work-wise, I've owned restaurants, ran casinos, but most of the time I sold real estate for the last 20 some years. Growing up, I rode horses, bought dirt bikes. I played baseball at a competitive level. Was always pretty athletic until I left high school, and then I let some bad habits roll in.
So you're in Vegas, you didn't own like Caesar's Palace or anything like that.
No, I didn't own anything. No, that would be the mob guys. But I was here during the mob times.
Okay. I heard about that. I guess there's a lot of bodies buried out in the desert, apparently, is what I'm told.
Yeah, there could be.
Could be some stuff going on. All right. And real estate. So I guess you maybe had a health challenge or something. You said you didn't take care of yourself, or what was going on?
Yeah, I kind of let things go. And we've been hearing all this mumbo jumbo about being obese is healthy now. And we all want to hear what we want to hear. Oh, I can be 300 pounds and be healthy. And then you get to 300 pounds and then all those bad habits, then you get to be 400 pounds. And then you still have bad habits, but now you're depressed with yourself. And you give up, then you get 500 pounds, and then I got to 629 pounds. I had to find an industrial scale to weigh myself.
That's quite
at that
big.
point.
629.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't stand for more than 30 seconds. My suit was a size 80. I wore an 8XL. I was getting so big that I couldn't even find clothes at it's a heavy man store.
Okay.
And I would lean on my wife. She's 110 pounds, and I'd be walking, I'd be leaning on her, and I'd hear the thing like, oh, you're going to crush her, blah, blah, blah. And one day I woke up, I wasn't feeling well. And I'd just been to the doctor the year before. They checked everything out, and I was still healthy until I wasn't, of course. I went to the doctor, and my AC1 went to the hospital. It was over 12, and I was not in good shape. The doctor comes in, he's talking to my wife, and he just says, if you don't make some changes, you're not going to be here long at all. And at that moment, I just didn't hear him anymore. And I just saw my wife's eyes, and I knew I couldn't do that to her. And
so this is at the time when you were 600 plus pounds, when he was saying
600 plus pounds. Actually, at that point, I was probably maybe 599 because I tried to lose a little weight, and we're all good for about 3 weeks. Yeah. But that's about it.
And so clearly diabetic, hemoglobin A1C of 12. Now, I guess your wife had to get pretty strong.
Yeah, she was. Actually, at that point, I was a good cook. So she had gotten up a little bit heavier too, but not quite. She gained like 30 pounds, and then she lost it when I lost it, of course, because we changed our lifestyles.
Okay, so were you still able to work when you were that big? Are you still doing everything you needed to do?
Yeah, because at that time, real estate, I would get to somewhere. I took a little hiatus off because I was actually that big, but I would do some deals where I didn't have to do much work. Literally, I could not stand for more than 30 seconds. I had to walk to where I was getting. I would break out in sweat, and then I'd be sitting there with a towel, a handkerchief, whatever, patting myself off constantly. It was a miserable life. Honestly, I don't know how to put it that way. There's so many challenges to being heavy, just simple things as taking a shower, cleaning yourself. You can't reach everywhere because your arms this is what I have left over. All this everywhere. I'm trying to bulk up, be buff like you to make up some of that.
Fill up some of the loose. Yeah, sure. So let me ask you, over what period of time did you get to 600 pounds? When were you quote unquote normal weight, and when did you start packing on the pounds?
Okay, so when I left college, I wasn't exercising, wasn't training for baseball anymore. So I just started gaining weight, and I probably was about 325 until I was about 30. And I think 325 for me, I'm a bigger guy. I'm almost 6'1", but I'm always been more of a stockier build, athletic build. So even though I was heavy at 325, it wasn't like I didn't look obese. And at 30, I just started getting bigger. When I met my wife, I was 375. And then I just got bigger from there. So at 34 and then 35 and then about 47, that's when I hit the peak. 46, 47.
So that's when you were 600 plus pounds. Okay, so diabetic, you said it's difficult to walk around and get out of shape. You start sweating. What other health issues were getting you down? I'm sure you're depressed, I would imagine. I don't know. What other things were going on? Yeah.
Depressed because it's a cycle. I had a thyroid issue. My doctor just took me off that last year. Other than that, I had a little high blood pressure. That went down. My heart rate was horrendous. My resting heart rate was, 88, something like that. Now I'm like in the 50s and mid 50s, under 60 most of the time resting heart rate. When I had to work out and everything like that eventually, because that took a while before I could work out, the doctor wanted me to keep my heart rate around 120. They didn't want me to exert myself so much because of how heavy I was. I did have some vein issues and discoloration on my legs. And I don't understand, but nobody knew what it was from. I don't think a lot of doctors deal with people that heavy. Later on, you find doctors that know what they're talking about and they understand that. But till then, not really.
Yeah, sometimes you get this hemosiderin deposits. There's things like bronze diabetes where you get these like darkly colored patches, acanthosis nigricans and things like that. And did you ever develop like cellulitis? Some people, when they get that big, will have cellulitis. They'll get like skin infections in their legs.
Yes, around my belly, wherever there was like a belt or something like that, yeah. Around my belly. Yeah, I did get some of that, but not a lot. Some.
Yeah. Okay. And so what were you eating this study? Was there a food that you couldn't stop? I know some people it's soda pop, some people it's chocolates and cakes and things like that. What was the thing you think that was your major problem?
The only thing that I could go ham on was like M&Ms, peanut M&Ms. But other than that, I really didn't eat a lot of candy. I ate cake on my birthday. That was about it. It was just food. And then when I ran casinos, I ran a bunch of them. So I would leave one casino, go to another one. And I would stop and get a sandwich at one. And then I'd forget I would eat and go get another sandwich. Forget I'd eat and go eat another sandwich. So probably in the day, or when I went to Taco Bell, great one there, I wouldn't get a taco or two. I'd get the 10-pack. And then it got to where I was getting a 10-pack of those and a burritos. But there would be multiple meals. I was probably consuming it sounds ridiculous, but maybe 6,000 to 10,000 calories when you think about it. I never really sat down and do it, but it's got to be somewhere around there because we're talking at least there would be a day I could do 30 tacos in a day easily, plus eating with my family, plus other things. I do know when I cut everything out one thing at a time originally. I was just because I realized every time I failed at a diet, first off, it was a diet. And I knew I was going to go off of it. But it was because I would take on the exercise and go really hard on that. And then I'd take out all the food. I'd take out everything. And then I would feel like I was not doing anything and I'd lose it all. And then I'd fail. So I just started taking one thing at a time. And when I took out anything that was through a drive-through, I would drive by a McDonald's. I'd smell that oil, which didn't really smell good. But I literally got the shakes. So at that point, I was like, there's something wrong.
It sounds like you're just constantly eating throughout the day, just all day long, eating, right? Is that fair enough?
Eating the worst stuff. I didn't realize I was going carnivore because at first I was just going keto for the diabetes to take me off the sugars. But then I just realized that I didn't really need that other stuff. And if I was hungry in between meals, all I did was add my protein up a little bit. And there's a difference between proteins. Like animal proteins, I wouldn't get hungry. If I tried other proteins, nuts or something like that, I'd be hungry. But animal proteins, I was hungry. So before I even knew what the carnivore was, I was heading that way because it was just much easier and it was better.
Yeah. And so all during this time, obviously it sounds like a course of 20 some years, maybe. Were there attempts to lose weight over over the years? And what were they?
Okay, let's see. The first one was a Jenny Craig.
Okay.
Remember Jenny Craig? That was horrible because you ate this prepackaged food. The minute you stopped doing it, back. Let's see, I tried the Atkins once. I tried just cutting everything in half, multiple diets.
No, was anybody talking to you? Because sometimes when people are in this sort of morbid obesity category, they'll be offered like bariatric procedures. Did it ever come up to you?
Yeah, but I had two friends that they had that gastric bypass or whatever it was. And the one was extremely obese. They didn't make her change any of her lifestyle before the surgery. So after the surgery, she didn't even walk afterwards. I guess she formed blood clots. She ended up passing. And that negated that for me. That was like a last resort. If I could not do it with just trying and figuring out something, that was going to be a last resort. But that was never really an option that I would do because I had two people, and both of them passed. Different complications from the surgery. The other one was when they did the lap band, they got some kind of puncture in their stomach lining and then never knew what it was, and just she ended up passing away from complications.
Yeah, there was particularly early on, there was a fairly high mortality rate with these sort of procedures, and they've gotten better with that, but still there's still potentials for a number of complications, and a lot of times people are gaining weight, and so it's not I don't think it's as good as it was made out to be. Plus you're losing parts of your body. It just doesn't make sense to cut out parts of your body. So during this whole time, I'm sure you'd seen physicians over the years. Did they ever discuss with you nutrition, like what was the best diet, or did they talk about that much?
Not really, a little bit. And that kind of shocks me because you're going in there. I'm minimum 100 pounds overweight when I saw the doctors. I didn't go to a lot of doctors because when you get to 400 pounds, avoid the doctor. You avoid cameras. You don't want pictures taken. You avoid people. No, I didn't really hear anything from them.
Were you on many medications?
No. Like I said, every time I went to the doctor, for a long time, I was healthy. I'd hear a little bit of, try to lose weight. That was the biggest thing. But no, not any medications until I went to the hospital.
Okay. And then you mentioned you presented at the hospital with hemoglobin A1C of 12, clearly floridly diabetic. Was there any kind of signs of that? Obviously, we know obesity is associated with that, but did you ever have a pre-diabetic hemoglobin A1C? Was that ever looked at? And if so, did they ever discuss it with you?
No. And before that hospital visit, it was about a year and a half before then, I did go to the doctor and there wasn't anything there as far as they told me about. The pre-diabetic, the only thing I was told was, because of your weight. But I do know the year before, I was urinating a lot. And that was like a lot, like uncontrollably. And that was, I guess that was a big sign of it. I didn't realize it at the time.
Again, what drove you to the hospital this time? Was there some sort
I woke up, I wasn't feeling well. And it was just like, something's wrong here. And I didn't know what was wrong. And then I had those, the bumps on my abdomen from, what do you call it? Cellulitis or whatever. You said the word for it, cellulitis. But I just wasn't feeling well, and it just was not good. And I had to go to the hospital. I never felt like that in my life.
Okay. So when they get you to the hospital, diabetic, obviously obese, having all kinds of issues, what did they tell you at that time? Did they tell you about diet, nutrition? They send you to a dietitian or anything like that? Yeah.
So in the hospital, they talked about it. And then they sent me a plate with mashed potatoes on it to eat for dinner. And then they started shooting me up with insulin, I guess it was. Mm-hmm. And they said, you're going to have to watch these carbs. I'm looking at this plate they sent me. And I'm like, this is like carb central. Even I knew it was carb central. It wasn't until afterwards I went to go see a doctor, and just something that between my wife's, looking at her, and between this doctor, she had a nutritionist in her office. And the way she spoke to me, she gave me like inspiration that it's not over. You can fix this. It's just going to take a little time. But the way she did it, I don't even know what she said. It hit me. And then the nutritionist got me on the way of the keto diet at first.
Okay. So that's an improvement. Many of them don't. Many of them automatically just tell you to just eat a bunch of carbs and crank up the insulin. Yes. So that's at least promising to hear that.
Since she's retired and my doctors are okay now. I finally got a good one again, but I went through a couple not so great ones.
Okay. And so initially starting out on ketogenic diet for the diabetes. Did you do that for a while, and how did that go for you?
I did that for about the first 100 pounds. And then I'm not totally carnivore, but I noticed that the more I cut out these other things,
Such
other than the meats.
So what are the things were you cutting out?
Like all the vegetables. First off, I cut out a lot of vegetables, no beans or things like that for the keto diet because they have proteins, but they have carbs. But then I limit myself down to cauliflower rice if I'm really craving that rice texture or something for something. But I eat that maybe once or twice a month. And then maybe occasionally an asparagus. I don't know why. I hated asparagus before, but occasionally I carve that. I cut out all the pastas. I cut out all breads. I've cut out all potatoes, any kind of beans. I've cut out everything except for pretty much like meat. And I eat eggs. I think eggs are on the diet of a carnivore. I limit cheese. I only eat certain cheeses. I don't drink any sodas. I drink water, lots of water. I even have a machine that puts seltzer in it for me.
I've got
so I have something that's, yeah.
I've got one of those at home. Yeah, we use it all the time. It's quite nice. My spouse is from France, and she prefers sparkling water. I guess they grew up on that stuff there. And
yeah.
Okay, so you go keto, you lose some weight, you gradually even get off some of the keto, like vegetables and things like that, go more meat-based, I suppose.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about appetite, because that's one of the things that a lot of people will say, because when they're almost, I'll call it a food addiction, and maybe you would agree or disagree, but you can't stop eating, you're always hungry. Did you notice a change in how your perception of appetite and levels of satiety when you went either keto or more carnivore-ish?
Okay. I'll explain that. Yeah. First off, I don't think I was hungry for the last 30 years of my life. I thought I was hungry. That's a different thing. Your mind's like crazy. But I will say I didn't realize what hunger was until I went on this diet. But I do notice that I would say on the carnivore, when I was keto, I would still feel those cravings of things. But when I went to carnivore, and I think it's because of the proteins in the meat, I didn't feel that hunger in between meals. I didn't need to grab something. So like right now, I can eat something at breakfast, something at lunch, and something at dinner, and I don't have to touch anything in the middle. And if I do feel anything, if at lunch I had 5 ounces of protein meat, I'll jump it up to 6 or 7. And it's really easy. Like I'm bulking up and then I lose. Right now I'm in a bulk. I gotta cut now. So it's really easier to do it. It's a lot easier because you're eliminating a lot of foods. So your diet's much simpler and it's easier to cook. It's easier everything. But yeah, as far as the hunger, I would say definitely on carnivore, I felt less of that in between. I sometimes find I have to eat more than I want to eat now. Whereas before my appetite, I could eat 2 pizzas, 3 pizzas. I think one time I had 4, but I don't know, on the carnivore thing, you're constantly trying to eat. I'm tired of food, quite honestly.
Okay. So you're definitely filling up and feeling satiated and satisfied.
Yes.
When you, let me just ask you, so how much weight did you end up losing, in total?
400 pounds.
You lost 400 pounds.
Yeah. Cause I had gotten down to 207. It was too skinny for me.
Wow.
But, and I'm sitting around 232 right now. My goal is always around 218, but like I said, I go through this bulking and because I'm trying to build and I got so much, I don't want to get that surgery for the skin. Mm-hmm. If I don't have to get it, I'll deal with the skin unless medically, if I have to do it.
You probably have 20, 30 pounds extra skin, maybe.
That's what my last doctor, she was looking at me and she looked at it and she says, you got about 25 pounds of skin. Because I was down to 205 and she says, you're a little too skinny. I said, yeah, but I'm 205. She says, no, you're not 205. You're less. You got skin. And my wife's always on me about that. She's afraid that I'll go too far the other way. The funny thing is, when you're 600 pounds, I go in the mirror, I walk by any window, like you're shopping, you see yourself in the thing. I constantly think somebody's following me because I'm not used to seeing the skinny guy in the mirror. No, it's serious. I'm always looking, who's that? It's starting to go a little bit away, but now. Yeah. And then as far as the carnivore diet, it helped me out a lot going more carnivore because I'm not total carnivore. I don't want to sell that. I think it's great. And I didn't even know what it was until I saw Peterson's daughter. She was Dr. Peterson's daughter.
Michaela Peterson. Yeah, sure.
And then I was like, wow, that's basically what I'm doing, minus like 2 days a month. And I was like, and it made sense to me. I don't know. And then I started watching you and everybody else. And I was like, okay, I didn't realize there was a whole thing about this.
Yeah, it's interesting. Recently, I've interviewed a number of people that are in your category that were super 800, 700, and 600 pounds folks. And I mean, one of them distinctly said for the first time in her life, she found the off switch. It was like she could turn it off. That's so that's a common thing. It's interesting how I think meat uniquely does that. And it's in a way, I think we see these new obesity drugs, I'm sure you've heard of these drugs called Ozempic, semaglutide, and they have these impacts on our gut hormones, particularly your incretin hormones. And I think carnivore does very similar. It gives you that sense of satiety where you don't want to eat everything. And it's done in a way you're supposed to get it, not that you're drugging yourself to get there. So yeah, really interesting. And tell me, at what point did you know this is different from other attempts than Jenny Craig or anything? When did it click on you that this is something I can sustain and this is really going to be? Was there a moment where you said this is different?
When I knew I didn't feel like I needed to cheat. Everybody talks about the cheat days. Mm-hmm. I don't have a cheat day because I enjoy everything I eat. What's better than a good steak? I sit there and watch you with your big knife eating that steak. Come on, what is better than that steak?
Yeah, everybody asks me about cheat meals, and I say I eat ribeyes every day. It's a cheat meal every day.
Every day is a cheat, right? It's basically that way. Everybody says, you're eating that meat. You shouldn't eat meat. And that's the other thing is I get all these people that I look at, and I can tell that they're not healthy. You can look at them and see that they're not healthy, and then they're telling me how wrong I am. You got to eat vegetables, Richard. You're not doing it right. I'm like, you know what? I go shopping. I don't need to go try clothes on. I see it. I like it. I take it home. I know it's going to fit. I can go run 8 miles if I want to go run 8 miles. I couldn't stand for 30 seconds, but I can go run 8 miles. Now, you know what? You keep whatever it is you're talking about, and maybe it works for you. You look really pale and you look sick, but maybe it works for you. And yeah, once I did that, and then I noticed that I could exercise and everything else. Yeah. So
that's impressive. You're now going from 600 pounds, barely able to walk a few feet without getting out of breath, to running 8 miles. When did you start doing the running stuff? When did that come in?
So when I first started, I went to Costco's and I would use their cart, because they're big, heavy carts, to hold myself up. And I would go to Costco's every day, which was crazy because there's all kinds of food there. But I would go on that thing until I could walk around that Costco's without the cart. And then I went to a treadmill, which I could barely fit in between the arms at that point. And I just walked, and I did that until I was about 350. And that's when I brought in weights. When I got to about 260, I started to do a light jog, like basically a fast walk. And then when I hit about 245, I started to jog a lot and run more. When I was heavy, I used to dream about running. When I was young, I used to run a lot. I played baseball. I was actually pretty good at baseball. So I wanted to get to that point where I could run again. So I started doing that. And I would like to, in the next year or two, do one of those Tough Mudders. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, something like that. I want to do one of those one of those things.
What was the time frame from when you were you said 630 or something like that, to when you got down to 205 or whatever you were?
All right. So it was about 2 years from about 2.5 years. My wife corrects me on that. About 2.5 years till I got to about 250. Okay. And once I hit 250, that was another year until I got to 205. Okay, I went really slow once I hit 250. I don't know, because at that point I was bulking, getting a little more muscle and everything like that, I think. But about 2.5 years for the first 380 pounds, roughly, and then about another year to get down to 205.
Yeah. Okay. And was your wife ever let me ask you, because you said you'd seen physicians, some you got along with, some you didn't for various reasons. Did they give you a hard time about going keto, low carb, carnivore-ish? Was there any kind of, hey, you need to eat a balanced diet, a Mediterranean diet? Was there any of that stuff going on?
They never really asked. And the first doctor, the one that was for the longest period of time, for that 2 years, she was the one that put me on the keto part. And then I would talk to her, and she didn't say it, but she was more towards that carnivore than not. And then the next doctor said, well, you got to balance it out a little bit. And the doctor I have now, she is pretty close. She likes where I'm at. She's like that 80, 90%. She says, don't go. In fact, she's the one that says you don't want to start eating these things because you're going to go back to bad habits. But she says every once in a while, you got to have some vegetables. She says, once or twice a month. Don't worry about it. But she's not against it. I would say she's more towards it than not.
Okay. Fair enough. And your wife was on board with it, I assume. I'm sure she's happy to see you lost weight, I would imagine.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that one, actually, because I thought she was, I'm going to get in trouble, a chubby chaser. No, because when she met me, I was 375-ish, 350 to 375. And I was a big boy. I was a big boy at 375. But I actually thought I was I was worried about that a little bit. She's about 125 to 130 now. She had gotten to 175, 179, something like that. She's come along that. In fact, the other day she said, if you want to go full carnivore, I'll go do it with you.
Okay. Well,
and I said,
January is World Carnivore Month, if you don't know. So
I said to her, you got to give up coffee. And she says, I'm not giving up coffee. I won't do it. I said, well, I'm sure you can go minus coffee.
Yeah, you can do it. But, you can do it with the coffee. The coffee's probably fine. But let me ask you, give me the time frame. You were 600. When was it? You lost over a period of 3 years or so. You lost 400 something pounds. And how long have you maintained that?
About 3 to 4 years.
So 3 or 4 years ago, you were 600 pounds?
No, 3 to 4 years. No, about 6 years ago, I was
6 years ago. Okay, so it's fairly sustainable then. Yeah, because a lot of people will say these diets maybe work for short-term weight loss, but they're not sustainable. And yet here you are 6 years later, previously 600 pounds. Obviously, I'm sure issues with kind of food addiction type stuff. You've maintained it. And that's incredible. Yes. That's amazing.
No, because you can eat all the good stuff.
It depends on your definition of good stuff. Some people think cake and ice cream is good stuff, and other people think steak is good stuff. And obviously, I fall in the latter. Well, I think they all taste good, but I don't want that other stuff because I'm getting the real good stuff.
You feel satisfied, yeah.
You feel satisfied with that. What is it? You said you're mostly carnivore, not 100%. What does a typical week of food look like for you? How much? How frequently? How many meals a day? And what are you eating?
So I eat 2 to 3 meals a day. I probably should eat 3 meals a day, but I don't buy into that. I will eat an egg or two in the morning sometimes. And then I'll have anywhere from, right now I'm up, so it's 9 to 10 ounces of either chicken, steak, hamburger, maybe some fish. I'm not really big on fish, but I'll do it every once in a while. And then at dinner time, I will eat another 8 to 10 ounces of meat again. Depends on the meat. Like sometimes it's a steak, sometimes it's a ribeye, sometimes it's hamburgers, meatballs. Well, but special meatballs. There's only eggs and some Parmesan cheese in there. So I guess that would still fall in the carnivore diet part. That's pretty much, I'm like meat. Occasionally there'll be some cauliflower rice or an asparagus in there. That's it. At first I would use like lettuce to do lettuce tacos, but then I just was not there. So that's basically it. I more meat 3 times a day.
And a lettuce taco.
Yeah, not anymore.
You mean like a lettuce wrap, basically? Yeah,
lettuce wrap. I was doing that if I was out of town or something like that, and I had to stop somewhere. I could go to In-N-Out Burger. I can get the lettuce wrap. At least I didn't eat the bun. Yeah. You know.
How do you feel these days, compared to just in general and comparative to where you were?
I feel 25.
How old are you?
I feel 25. I'm 50. Going to be 54 this year.
54. Okay.
No, I am 54. I'm going to be 55.
Okay.
And I can go and hang with, physically I can go hang. My muscles will feel worse the next day, but I can go hang with anybody. I went and played softball with some young folks the other day.
What about mentally? Are you still working in real estate? Has this impacted your ability to think and to work and things like that?
Yeah, of course, because when you're heavy, when you walk in the room, everybody's looking right at you. And you want to blend away as you can, but you can't because I sent you some pictures. You're that guy. You're the guy that everybody's like, oh my God, look at him. How much does he weigh? And now you walk into a room and I want everybody to look at me now because I am a different shape. My wife gets mad at me because I do the rock, the bouncing of the pecs to her all the time. She gets mad about that. So it's a tremendous difference. You feel good about yourself. You feel confident. I find myself looking in the mirror, whereas for years, literally years, I would brush my teeth. I did not look. I would look in the mirror, but I would concentrate on what I was brushing. I never looked at myself. I would attempt, and I stayed away from pictures. Now, anybody throws a picture up, I'm in it. I'm in it because I'm in it. I want to be in it. I'll probably throw a muscle up or something like that.
I wanted to, one other thing. Hemoglobin A1C was 12 when you were diagnosed. Do you have a normal number now? Is that a normal number?
Yeah, I stay between 4.9 to 5.1.
Wow. Okay. Very nice. It sounds like your dogs are getting excited.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I've got dogs too, and they like to get involved sometimes. What about, so obviously someone has had to notice, I can't imagine no one would notice 400 pounds of weight loss. People you worked with, other family members, other people that you know. How has that been received? And have you told them I'm eating basically a bunch of meat, or how did that go?
Yeah, so when I ran the casinos, I finally went back. My wife works for those casinos I used to run. And I went back to one of their Christmas meetings, and after I lost weight, nobody knew who I was. They thought that she married a new man. And that was fun. That was actually fun when they didn't realize who I was. I didn't think I'd change that much, but I guess they didn't recognize me. Yeah, it's been different. And as far as people asking me about it, yeah, there's where it gets to. Some people already do it. There's more people out there that do this than you think. But then there's also this other people, like I said, that are constantly telling me, you can't do that. You got to eat vegetables. You got to go, because they bought into this whole thing of, we got to eat vegetables. I don't understand. I got to throw this out there. This fake meat, this will kill every diabetic on earth. It is loaded with carbs. In one of those fake patties, it's got like 50 carbs. How is it? And I know you're a doctor. I'm not. I assume that if you're eating carbs, it's not good for diabetics, because that was my experience.
There's a lot of evidence that would point to that a lot of diabetics do very poorly with carbs. The American Diabetics Association is still very much carb friendly, and so that's their sort of thought. They just think that you need to. They are very against you eating saturated fat to any significant degree, and so I think there's definitely a disconnect there between, and some of it may be due to the fact that they're maybe funded by companies that promote processed foods and other things. So
I agree with you.
That probably weighs in on their algorithm, unfortunately. Clearly it did not work for you, and this works much better for you. So you said you got to a point where you said, I lost so much weight, I got so thin that I wanted to put on some muscle. And I think that's great. I think that's an important aspect, because a lot of times when people lose weight, they lose so much lean mass, and then that's also a problem. And how are you? So what does your day-to-day activities look like? How often are you training, and how do you fit into your work schedule?
I am lucky that I've always been somebody that can bulk up faster, but I'm 54 now, so it's bulking up a little slower than I used to be. But I do, and I'm looking to change it around, but I do 2 days a week of lower body weights, and that's for about 2 hours. And then I do 2 hours of upper body 2 times a week. And then I've been cutting the cardio down, but I was doing an hour and a half of cardio every day in addition to that. I'm cutting it down to about 45 minutes because my doctor says I'm overdoing that cardio aspect. She said, keep the weights, fine, but lower the cardio. You don't need to do an hour and a half of cardio. She says, you're more active now, Rich. You used to not be as active, so you can do 45 minutes of cardio. She says, you can even do not some days. But so I do 2 hours of upper body 2 times a week, So normally last night was my upper body. Tonight will be my legs. And then I'll wait 2 days and do upper body again. And then the next day, legs, everything below the waist. Yeah. I tried the other stuff, but I don't know how to separate it out properly.
Did you ever have blood pressure issues when you were overweight? Was that ever an issue?
It was creeping up. Now it's sitting decently. I think I'm like 118 the last time over something. So I'm okay now. It was 129, 135.
Okay. So
something like that.
So not super high, but slightly elevated, and then now back down to the normal range for sure.
Yeah.
How's your sleep? Did you have sleep apnea? I can't imagine you didn't have sleep apnea at 6.
Yeah, my wife said I would wake up all the time snoring, and then I wake up. Yeah, I didn't sleep. I didn't sleep more than an hour at a time. Now I put my head to sleep. I lay down, I'm out within 2 minutes, and then I wake up, it's morning. So I don't have to go to the bathroom 17 times a night. I can sleep through the night. I feel good. I need less sleep, but I try to sleep more. I can get away with 5 hours, but I try to get 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours. Because I noticed that even though I'd like to not sleep until I die, you need to have some sleep.
Yeah, I heard that. I'll rest when I'm dead. No, you do need to sleep or you're not going to have a very good quality of life. It's going to happen very quickly. So were there any negatives when you changed your diet? Can you think of any negative things that occurred to you?
The biggest negative I can think of was, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it seemed that way. The first year without carbs, like the memory was a little different. I didn't feel like I remembered things as easily. Like short-term memory was like off. Other than that, nothing that really stands out. I just noticed that memory thing. Oh, you lose a little bit of hair. Eventually I lose it anyways. But eventually you don't lose it as much.
Okay. And it could be just obviously as you get older, people lose their hair. And sometimes with calorie reduction, we'll see some hair loss. And sometimes it's a hair follicle thing. And sometimes it comes back depending on the reason for that.
And mine was dramatic. It was 400 pounds in 2 years. That's fast.
Any problems with the gallbladder? Sometimes with rapid weight loss, people will have gallbladder issues. Did that?
None that I know of. None of those were addressed to me.
So you have all your original body parts. You didn't have anything removed or anything like that?
No, nothing's been removed. I did have a hernia when I was younger, but other than that, they put that mesh in there, I believe. But
okay.
I'm always worried about that too because of extreme expansion and then contraction.
Okay. And let's see. So favorite food? Do you have a favorite food now? That
would probably be a ribeye. In fact, my wife and I were talking about ordering a cow. Mm-hmm. We were talking about that today because you can order them, they chop them up. You can order the whole thing and then put it in your freezer. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say ribeye. That would probably be my favorite thing. I like ribs, but just like different, but ribeyes.
Yeah, enough fat on there. Yeah, they're definitely flavor. I'm actually, I'm not having ribeyes for breakfast. I'm having New York strips this morning. But yeah, I think with a freezer, I think the cubic footage is something like, I can't remember, it's like 15, 18 cubic feet to fit a cow in there, depending on.
We got 4 freezers.
Oh, you got 4. Yeah, because it's usually around close to 500 pounds worth of meat when you get it some 450, 500.
You've done that before then?
What's that?
You've done that before?
Yeah. Well, I've done a side. So I've done a half, which is about 230 pounds or something. Yeah, it's a good way to do it. It's a good way to support your local ranchers and stuff like that. One of the things you said you'd go to casino to eat, go to another casino to eat. Do you ever eat at work anymore? Do they have any food? Because I know some casinos have buffets where they might have ribeye or prime rib. I've seen that in Vegas when I go there.
Yeah, I don't do when I was in the casino industry, and I'm in real estate for a long time now, so I just eat where I want to eat. But yeah, we go to casinos. When I go out to eat, I just basically if it's chicken, I'll get grilled chicken, or if it's steak, whatever they have there, this meat, I'll get that. I tell them, with somebody, I said, would you like my pasta? Would you like my vegetables? If not, just leave it off the plate. I'll grab some bacon. Although bacon is hard because there's a lot of bacon that's really got a lot of sugars in it. So I try to stay away from bacon out. I'll eat bacon at home, but not out so much. But yeah, no, it's easy to eat. Everybody has a hamburger patty. You can get hamburger patties. It's on your plate. It's easy. Actually, it's the easiest diet to eat out with because you can eliminate so many things.
Yeah, I can imagine if you lived in Vegas, I don't know if they still do that, but sometimes you go to a casino and they'll have a prime rib lunch for X
Yeah.
amount of money, which was actually relatively cheap. And you go in there and just, hey, I'm just going to go to the prime rib buffet and eat my meal for the day, do one meal a day type thing. Is that still possible in Vegas? It's got to be pretty easy to be carnivore in Vegas.
Yeah, it's changed here a little bit. You can still do it, but it's not quite like it was. But you can. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. And what else was I going to ask you here? Oh, cholesterol, because that's, obviously you're killing yourself with heart disease with high cholesterol, right? You got to be. Yeah. What's the story on that? How do you deal with your doctor? Did your cholesterol go up? So sometimes a lot of times it doesn't go up, which is interesting.
No, my cholesterol is always, let's see, the time, not this last meet to the doctor. So the time before it was a tiny bit high. And then this last time it was back down again. Not really. It's just a natural thing. I do notice, like, if I'm bulking, it'll be higher. If I happen to go when I'm bulking, it seems like it's higher, but not really. I don't really, no, I don't, I personally don't feel it's like really linked to that, but I'm not a doctor.
Okay. There's a lot of thought around that. It's not in the purview of this discussion to go into too much, but so your doctor's fine. Your doctor's fine with where you're at. Basically, sounds labs are fine.
Yeah,
you're not diabetic. Your blood pressure is normal. Cholesterol is minimally not elevated. So I think life is looking pretty good. How's your outlook on life? When you were 600 pounds, like barely walking, what were you thinking about the future? Were you thinking, I'm going to drop dead soon? And what do you think about now?
I thought that, but then I also didn't think that, because we're being fed a bunch of baloney about, you see it all the time. They show the obese people on the magazines. This is the new healthy, blah, blah, blah. And every time I see that, it just angers me, because I know where they're headed. And the bigger you get, the harder it is to lose it. It's honestly, I look back and I don't know how I did it. I don't know what mindset. I think being carnivore and being keto, moving to carnivore helped out a lot, but it's one small change at a time can get you through life. It got me through this. It got me through my business. It does everything. But my outlook on life is totally different. I would love to help everybody stop believing that obesity is healthy. It's horrible. It's not. You're never going to be happy. There's no way anybody can be happy when you can't fit in a chair. I've been at restaurants where the chair has broken beneath me. You can't fit in a booth. You can't go to a movie theater. You can't go to a concert because you can't sit in those seats. There's no way you can have a good life or a happy life. The first time we went to a restaurant after I lost the weight, the person asked, would you like a booth? I looked at my wife and I was going to murder her, because I could not fit in a booth when I was 600 pounds. I'm walking towards that booth and I'm upset. I'm upset because I can't fit in that booth. And then when I got in that booth and there was like 1.5 feet in front of me, between me and the table, I had to apologize to my wife for giving her that nasty look. She says, I knew you could fit in there. I'm like, I didn't think I could, because I still felt fat. This is the first year I don't feel fat. Yeah. But no, life is good. I just went to Spain. I went on a plane. Now I fit in seats. My wife takes up more. No, she doesn't take up more room. But it's wonderful. Life is grand when you are healthy, I guess. It's a different thing.
Yeah, a lot of people take it for granted, and you've had this experience where you didn't have the health, and fortunately you're able to recover from that. And I think we have this, like you said, the body positivity, the healthy at any size movement, which is also being funded by these processed food companies, sadly. And I think it really is harming people. And you do see people that they're glorifying eating junk and putting it out there. You see it on social media now, and I'm beautiful, love me like I am, and I'm not going to change. And there's doctors saying that losing weight is actually unhealthy. There's one particular doctor, she calls herself the fat doctor, and she says that if you lose weight, it's actually unhealthy for you to do so. And I can't understand, other than she's deeply deluded and addicted herself and trying to justify it to other people. But it is really a problem. I'm glad you share that, because you've been there and you know what it's like.
This summer, I went to the Wet n Wild. It's a water park. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's from COVID or whatever. I don't know. But you look around, 70% of the people easily are obese, not just overweight, obese. And it is crazy because when I was a kid, everybody was skinny, and there may be the one obese person here and there. You looked at them because they were the anomaly. They weren't, but now it's like the skinny person is the one that's like out of place. But these people, it's horrible because you're a doctor. Everybody, I'm sorry, there is no way you're going to be obese and be healthy because the habits that make you obese are going to kill you. I'm sorry, because 10 tacos 4 times a day, 3 times a day, whatever it was, is not going to be sustainable. You're going to die.
Yeah. Did you ever entertain for tacos? Because I can hear people, and I don't know how many vegans will listen to this, but saying, if you just went plant-based and ate plant-based tacos, did you ever consider veganism at one point? Was that ever even on your radar?
Yeah. Before I talked to my doctor, I considered everything. When I was younger, my father would go through these things and he would try that stuff. And no. These printed meats, no, I'm not doing it. No, they're not good. I'm not eating the bugs. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing that. I've had to do it for real estate. I've had to eat crickets for customers. I've had to eat horrible stuff. But no anymore. I eat meat. I am a carnivore. I will say though, if I want to eat some vegetable, I will. If it's something that I want to eat, but it's not going to be a staple in my diet. I don't see it. And no. Yeah.
A lot of people look at like meat as your actual food, and vegetables can be either used medicinally or as flavoring additives. Meat is the actual nutrition. I think that's often a reasonable approach. So I'm going to ask one other thing there. Has anybody, I don't know if you're on social media or not, or have you impacted other people? Have anybody asked you how you've done it, and you've been able to convince somebody or demonstrate this through example, inspire them to do things?
Yeah, my wife, she lost about 40 pounds. 30. Let's see, she's 179. She's down to about 225 to 230 now. And then there's a couple other people that I did help. 2 other people. I try to talk to people if they want to know about it. I'm open about my weight loss, and I hear some things, but it's crazy because anytime you try to help somebody, I know it worked for somebody that's 600 pounds. I know it worked for me. I know it could work for so many other people, but you start helping them, they'll lose some weight, and then they'll talk to somebody that says, oh, that's horrible. You can't do that. You're going to die from eating meat. You need to eat vegetables. You need to cut out the meat. And I get that. And so then what happens is there's people I've helped. They've lost 100 pounds. They still got 100 pounds to go. Then they say, no, Rich, we can't do this. We got to eat vegetables. Next thing I know, they're back up to the weight they were. It's not the vegetables that do it, but it's just, there's so many people out there that will say so many things to make money. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, it could be just the whole quote unquote balanced diet. You got to eat a balanced diet. And whenever I hear that and I say, what's in a balanced diet? And they say, we got to eat the rainbow and all these different colored fruits and vegetables. And I'm like, you realize that most of those don't grow in the same part of the world. And almost no humans could have ever done that before maybe, 75 years ago. That was impossible. That's that whole sort of that to me, it just doesn't make sense, if just even in a very recent historical sense. Interesting, though. We've just got a couple more minutes left. Is there anything else you want to share or any advice you'd want to give people that may be in a similar situation?
If they're similar situation, you know what? Just take it one step at a time. Make one small change.
Richard, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and continued success. And I hope you get jacked and strong and get there. All right, get there. Awesome, man. We look forward to it. All right, guys. Thank you very much.